Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Liz Bostwick and I'm a therapist in training at Redbird Therapy Centre in Toronto, Canada. This is episode 5 of my YouTube series. This series is a Redbird Therapy initiative. It's free, it's online across 3 different platforms, all about self-compassion. Here on my YouTube channel, my colleague Anne on her Instagram page at Mental Health Wellness, she's been putting out really great self-compassion content, so make sure to check her out. And then we have a free online workshop coming up April 9th. It'll be myself, Anne, and my supervisor answering your questions about self-compassion, doing some self-compassion practices together. So if you're interested, please follow the link in my description, and we would really love to see you there. So today's episode, we're going to be focusing on self-compassion for body image issues and social comparison. This is a really big issue, so we're just kind of skimming the surface, but we're going to be looking at briefly social media and social comparison and how we can make some strategies to help us make sure we have a healthy life on social media and we're not always falling into that trap of this cycle of social comparison when viewing social media. Then we're going to be looking at self-compassion and how self-compassion can really help us to move towards that body acceptance, body respect, body neutrality, and away from that negative self-talk and that criticism we have about our bodies most of the time. Then finally, we're going to be doing a practice that'll help us hopefully to activate some self-compassion, figure out what we have control over in body, what we kind of don't always have control over, and that mindful acceptance that goes along with that. So as always, this episode and this channel is for educational purposes only. It is not a substitute for individual therapy with a licensed psychotherapist. So if you are needing some extra support, I do have some crisis lines listed in the description. And it's really important for you to seek that help and seek that support if you do need it. So make sure you're really taking care of yourselves out there. And with that, let's get started. So I think before we start, it's really important to recognize that although body image issues and social comparison feels really, really personal to talk about, it's really a universal feeling. And the shame and the hate that we have towards our own bodies is really influenced by our greater society. So it's no surprise when I say that our society is very image-centered, it's ableist, it's very fat-phobic. And the mass media and our ideas of consumerism, it really kind of pushes us towards changing our bodies and buying things and working out in order to get to some idealized norm. So the body positivity movement kind of has grown from this. It's born out of a fat acceptance and the importance of marginalized bodies that aren't really seen in represented in media. So marginalized bodies like queer and trans bodies, fat bodies, differently abled bodies, racialized bodies. So this movement kind of works to reclaim and challenge this idea of the beauty standards and the idealized norm, and really helps us to recognize that diversity of bodies is beautiful. So self-compassion works within this movement and can work in our own lives as well, to really challenge and radically change the way we focus on our own bodies and the way we give love and understanding to our own bodies by doing just that, challenging and reclaiming this idealized norm. So we're talking about how society kind of pitches this idealized body norm and the social comparison that comes along with that. Social media is really at the forefront of this conversation because it so singularly influences our view of ourselves and our view of other people and comparing ourselves to others. One of the reasons is because as humans, we've never had this much access to this many other people's personal, intimate lives. So this can actually be a good thing because this online community that we have grown and that we have may not be the same as the community we have outside of social media. It can connect us to a lot of people. It can help us learn about others and learn and grow ourselves as well. The problem is when this kind of social comparison cycle starts happening and we're constantly comparing ourselves to others on social media, it can lead us feeling a lot of anxiety, depression, feelings of low self-worth, and these really intense body image issues as well. So how do we kind of protect ourselves from these bad effects of social media while still getting all the good benefits out of social media that we need? So some strategies that I think are really important are putting boundaries up around social media. So recognizing that if we're having a really bad mental health day or a really sensitive body image issue day, that we maybe take the day off from social media. Another one is putting time constraints on social media use. So recognizing, when I spend this much time on social media, I don't feel so good. So maybe I'll start kind of reducing the time that I spend on social media. And going along with that is kind of substituting different activities between your social media use so you feel a little bit better at the end of the day. And then kind of looking at what your account looks like and diversifying your feed is a really important way to kind of make that representation that we see in our world on your feed. So you're not kind of just constantly seeing this idealized norm of beauty. And then finally, recognizing that your personal account is your personal space and you have full permission to block and unfollow accounts that don't make you feel good. Because this is your own personal space, really make it so that it makes you feel good when you're on social media and you're not constantly seeing accounts or people that are making you really compare yourself to them or making you feel kind of less than or feel that body shame. So how can self-compassion help us to reduce body image issues that are stemming from social comparison or comparing ourselves to this idealized norm in mass media? So looking at the first kind of quality of self-compassion, which is self-kindness, we can notice that a lot of the times we are not very kind to our bodies. We're often extremely disconnected from our bodies and we only really talk about or to our bodies when it's something negative. So usually that's appearance-based stuff. So when we have like weight fluctuation or changes to our bodies or our faces because of aging, or things that we can no longer do. So, saying like, oh, I'm so out of shape, or really just putting down our body all the time. So self-compassion can really help us to appreciate and acknowledge the unique abilities that our body does have and that our body does do for us that we don't always recognize. So kind of providing gratitude and treating our bodies like a friend can be a way for us to kind of radically change the way that we view our bodies and the way we talk to our bodies. So doing a simple exercise like noticing things that your body does for you that you are grateful for. Saying, I'm so glad that I have these long arms that I can hug my friends with. I'm so happy that I have this nose that I can smell flowers with. Just little things like that to kind of send some compassion to your body and the unique abilities it has. So it's important when we're talking about being kind to our body that we don't always have to fully love our bodies. We don't have to accept every part of our bodies to be compassionate towards our bodies. The important thing here is just to not send shame or hate towards our bodies, because this self-criticism and this negative self-talk doesn't do anything to motivate us to change, and it doesn't really help us in any way. All it does is create this kind of hostile inner world for us to live in. Whereas compassion towards our bodies and acceptance and mindful acceptance towards our bodies can help us kind of reduce this body shame that we constantly feel when we're comparing ourselves to others. So the second quality of self-compassion, which is exploring common humanity, can really help us to foster an acceptance about self-comparison and body image issues. So it helps us to realize that comparing ourselves to others is really this kind of universal human struggle that we all really have and that we all really engage in. So it's helpful to recognize that even these people with this idealized body, even they have social comparison issues. Even they have body image issues or things they're ashamed about of their bodies. So recognizing this, it really helps us to kind of find community and find that this feeling is very universal and that we're not the only ones that feel it and we're not the only ones that are affected by it. So mindfulness is the last quality of self-compassion. And mindfulness is really important when we're talking about body image issues and social comparison, because being mindful of our bodies can really help us to learn to be more aware of how we feel in our bodies, rather than just viewing our bodies as appearance-based things or viewing our bodies the way other people view our bodies. Being mindful of what our emotions and feelings and intuitions and how these body sensations exist within us can really help us to become more connected to our body and kind of learn to build resources within our body to help support ourselves. Being mindful about our body can also really help us to figure out what we have control over in our bodies and what we can change about our bodies, versus being mindful and accepting those things that we can't change about our bodies and that we don't have control over in our bodies, and still sending compassion and acceptance to those parts of ourselves. So the practice we're going to be looking at today is compassionate movement. So I have moved spaces because I do need to stand up in a moment. You can do this seated as well if standing is not accessible or available to you right now. But to start off with, compassionate movement is a way for us to kind of connect with and feel more mindful and feel more accepting of our body. It can allow us to kind of track and become aware of body sensations and release some of that tension that builds up. And it's a really important way for us to recognize what we have control over our bodies and what we don't have control over our bodies, and still accepting and sending compassion to those parts that we don't have control over. It's also really helpful because it kind of helps us to view our bodies not from an appearance-based view. So it kind of helps us to come back into our bodies and be more connected with our bodies as well. So I'm going to stand up. And I invite you to stand up as well if that's accessible to you. We're going to start with an anchoring exercise. So if everybody can kind of have their feet planted firmly on the ground. So we're going to imagine that we're really anchoring our feet down and there's roots kind of growing from the ground and keeping our feet in place. We're trying to feel very grounded and at ease right now. Now we're going to start to rock back and forth. So we're going to kind of go on our heels a little bit and rock back and forth from our heels to the balls of our feet to the tops of our tippy toes and backwards. Just feeling all the subtle changes in our feet and the feeling of different balance when we're doing this. And we're going to go from side to side, so the sides of our feet are feeling connected to the ground, all different parts of the feet having different contact with the ground right now. Now we're going to start to move our knees a little bit around. So again, our feet, all different parts of our feet have contact with the ground. Feeling those subtle changes, sending gratitude towards the feet. They support us so much throughout the day. And then we're going to move to an expanding exercise where we expand our awareness by raising our arms as much as we can, stretching them out, taking up as much space as you can. Expanding your awareness, expanding your space. And then we're going to come back into our bodies, recognizing that we have so much control over this space when we're moving like this. And then we can come back into stillness as well. Start to recognize if there's any places in your body, if your body's telling you that there's any movement you really want to do right now, any movement that'll bring you kind of release of tension or release of some feeling or emotion. And just follow through and listen to your body in this moment. So my shoulders are a little bit tense right now, so I'm going to kind of do some shoulder rolls. But I really encourage you to listen to your own body. Really feel what your body is asking you for right now. So just take some time to do that action. Feel that tension release. And then we're going to come back into stillness. Take some time to recognize and be mindful that, maybe that tension wasn't completely released. Send some acceptance to those parts of you that you don't always have control over. Send some compassion to those parts of you that you can't change. But you're still here with your body. You're still listening. Still accepting. Still sending compassion. Just come to that stillness. Send gratitude towards your body. Compassion towards your body. And then we're going to release. So this exercise is really good for finding that control in your body, sending acceptance to parts of your body that you can't change or you don't have control over, and also finding that anchoring and that grounding that's so important when we're trying to resource ourselves and support ourselves through some tough emotions, including body image. We're stuck in these places of feeling really sensitive body image issues, or we're feeling a lot of social comparison. Coming back into our bodies and recognizing what we have control over can be a really, really important way for us to kind of change our thinking and get out of those body comparison cycles. So I hope this is helpful to you, and I really encourage you to practice it when you need some extra resourcing. So coming to the end of the episode, I want to put out some journal prompts as always. Journaling is a really important way for you to kind of reflect on and debrief after you watch this episode, and it can be a really helpful way for you to grow and kind of track your growth as well. So the first journal prompt is, what are 5 things that your body does for you that you're grateful for? And the other journal prompt is, what are some parts of your body that you want to send compassion to? Okay, everybody, that is the end of the episode. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please, everyone, stay tuned for my final episode, which will be coming out March 18th, and that is called Self-Compassion for the Helper. So if you are a caregiver, if you're in the helping profession, or if you really are empathetic or really love to help other people, please tune into that one. It'll be focused on how you can better help yourself and send some compassion to yourself when you send a lot of compassion to other people. So please check that out and sign up for our workshop if you're interested. Again, the details are in my description below. Everybody take care of yourselves out there. Sending you all so much compassion and so much love. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time.